Did Minister Gayton McKenzie, the head of the PA, accidentally begin a race war within South Africa, where his racist past has come to the forefront? Even further, has he potentially threatened the stability of the GNU government and even the potential political future of the Patriotic Alliance? And lastly, did Liam Jacobs make a massive mistake by leaving the DA, an organization that the PA alleges is one that uses significant and important coloured voices to use them against other coloured voices within South Africa, especially consider how the PA has their own racial scandal going on right now? Let me know what your thoughts are. Before we provide different answers to these questions, let's rewind a little bit. How did we get here? So recently, the Open Chats podcast that is run by young South Africans released an episode where they had a segment where they made statements about the South African coloured community, many of which were derogatory and basically push a lot of negative stereotypes about the South African coloured community, such as violence and many other allegations against them. And of course, this did not go over well. It wasn't well received by the South African public. However, where this takes a bit of an interesting turn is that the PA leader, Minister Gayton McKenzie, took it upon himself to defend the interests of the South African coloured community and also calling for the cancellation of the Open Chats podcast and its future removal on any other broadcasting sites, such as through DSTV and MultiChoice.
I've also spoken to MultiChoice, because this was aired on the 25th of July on the platforms. MultiChoice is not renewing their association with this podcast, and they are disgusted with what they have seen. These people are apparently on YouTube, so what we are doing now, we are moving to YouTube and TikTok. There should be no place to hide for racists.
And this was very interesting, caused a lot of backlash as many people began to challenge the effectiveness of cancel culture within South Africa. And through this, many South Africans became very angry and actually curious about Minister Gayton McKenzie's past. And they dug so deep into this man's past that past tweets where he used the K word against Black South Africans, African South Africans. But through this, a lot of these statements that he made publicly essentially came to the forefront, leaving many people betrayed and a bit surprised in terms of who they actually voted for, if they did vote for him in the past elections. And through this, many people are questioning, is it possible to separate the man from his past? I understand that this story is extremely triggering and it is very easy to have a very emotional response to this entire ongoing situation. However, this is very nuanced, very layered, and many people from all sides have different perspectives and are also voicing them. In this video, I will be sharing them with you guys, and you basically get to decide whether or not you agree or you disagree, or maybe you have an entirely other perspective that puts you on the other side. And while we're at it, hit the subscribe button and join the other side where we get to debate and discuss different topics just like this. And with that being said, I know it's very controversial, but the thing is, right, Gayton McKenzie is not the first person to say such things, nor will he be the last. There'll be many others to come, and there'll be many others who are pushing these same ideas. He just happened to be caught. He just happened to be filmed. He happened to leave a public record, and right now he's actually deleting a lot of his tweets. Sorry, I have to quickly interrupt. There's been a bit of an update to this story. Minister Gayton McKenzie has released a statement.
So I answer to the people. I don't answer to the Twitter mob. I answer to the people of the Patriotic Alliance. In my entire life, I have never called anybody the K-word. Never. Where's the victims? This is a political campaign driven by EFF together with some, they call them influencers on Twitter. Let them show me. You said to, you Gayton, said to point B, you said to that person, this person, you use the K-word when referring to that person. They can't.
This is very deliberate because he's stating that you can't find me stating the K word or using the slur to another person. However, he's unable to state the fact that he has not ever used the word, especially when speaking and engaging with people socially on social media. Can that really hold water? You let me know. That is quite interesting, and he's basically telling South Africans and people all around that we should ignore our lying ears and our lying eyes, and that rather we are quite stupid for reading the way that we are reading, and also ignoring the fact that these statements come from his official accounts and also come from his official appearances that he's currently deleting from his social media. So that being said, are South Africans extremely stupid people who are unable to appreciate nuance and unable to form meaningful debates and discussions around what they see and hear, and somewhat actually could potentially blow back on Minister Gayton McKenzie, just denying the entire existence, where quite literally people have him on tape saying a lot of these crazy statements, and that honestly, his PR team or his advisors or whatever, they are failing him right now. And rather, I think maybe he should take a bit more time to think about his response if he didn't have one. And that rather, this is such a short-sighted response that could have long-term catastrophic effects on him. And that it's honestly basically just saying that South Africans, we are stupid. We cannot read. When can somebody genuinely seek forgiveness from the public, especially when they've made attempts to move forward and to somewhat right the wrongs of their past? Because within the past year up until this point, Gayton McKenzie had been one of the golden men to emerge from this GNU, among many others like Peter Groeneveld, even further to the Action SA's growth within the situation. One thing that is on the minds of many people right now is whether or not politicians just say what is necessary to be able to get themselves votes, or if they actually mean it. Even now with Gayton McKenzie, he has had this long story of crime and also impacting him and trying to create a better South Africa for all people. Even his own portrayal in the public has been one of a former gangster with a heart. Last year, during the Olympics, he was so vocal, present for many young South Africans who are participating within sports and different events at the South African Olympics last year across many racial groups and many ethnic lines. Even further, standing up and protecting the interests of artists. He has been portrayed as somebody who's always on the ground, even protecting South African interests as a whole, with that iconic line of Abahambe, for instance. Abahambe! 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 Even now, the situation where he is using a term that is very loaded and has a lot of racist connotation within South Africa, how many people are actually questioning, is he a genuine and authentic leader or somebody who says what needs to be said? Of course, these comments are hurtful, especially when you consider the entire context about it. And also when you consider what in Arabic, the meaning of it means non-believers. And somewhat when you are pushing people in such a way, is it really possible to have national dialogue? And even with Gayton McKenzie, is it more so a situation where he's like, okay, I messed up now in August. I know the 2026 elections are coming up. I have a couple of months to basically rehabilitate my image and being able to someone get South Africans back on my side. Even now, it somewhat appears that the media and South Africans have a very short-term memory. You sort of have these things come and go. And it's become such a situation where there's just so much information that comes out around politics, media every single day, that truthfully speaking, a couple weeks from now, maybe a couple months from now, people might forget the story. And what's left is that we still have this somewhat tension that exists within South Africa, where people are overly suspicious and paranoid. And on top of that, you have the situation where people capitalize on these feelings of anxiety. Take, for example, the white genocide thing, even in terms of people genuinely have valid feelings about the experience within South Africa, even within the South African colored community, that people begin to feel and sniff out this doubt and anxiety, and like wolves, they come in and they capitalize on that anxiety and that stress that many people are feeling in their day-to-day. I never ever imagined a universe where former DAMP Ronald House would basically be fighting Minister Gayton McKenzie over who was the most recent racist. That was shocking for me because with Ronald House, what happened was that he was caught on tape using the K word in a video, in a sense, a heavily publicized video, and as a result, he had been removed from his position. And somewhat now, he's basically calling out Gayton McKenzie and saying, look, you called me a racist. You called for my downfall, but look at you, you're also just as racist as me. And he also began to raise questions about whether or not cancel culture is really an effective use of our time. And actually, funny enough, I actually made a video about this a couple months ago when MacG was actually trying to be cancelled. I suggest that you watch it, check it out. It's up here above. With Gayton McKenzie, he just happens to be somebody that has a public platform. There are many people behind closed doors and in their homes, in their hearts, in their day-to-day life who genuinely hold these perspectives of using racism, using slurs in their day-to-day. Alienating Gayton McKenzie, I question, especially when you consider how South Africa has such a layered relationship with race, it's this sensitive topic that people are so scared to ever engage with and actually talk about meaningfully, because Gayton McKenzie just happened to have his thoughts and his ideas shared publicly. But there are many people across the country, whatever race it's geared towards, whether it's white people, whether it's black people, Indian people, colored people, who share the exact same views. I remember earlier this year there'd been this scandal where this man, he made a song about his Indian neighbor and he used the derogatory K word in the song. And as a result, he got cancelled, he got removed.
The van pulled slowly in to Mrs. Naidu's drive. Oh, I don't know why she's leaving or where she's gonna go now. I guess she's got a reason, maybe she doesn't like my bunny chow. But for 24 years I've been trying to get it into Mrs. Naidu. Oh, Mrs. Naidu, you sexy coolie, you.
But when you cancel people, I somewhat question whether or not it somewhat pushes people into the far fringes of society, just sort of pushes them into a corner where they feel that they can't express themselves. I'm using an example of this situation. So now let's say he does get cancelled, he does get removed, he does everything that people are calling for happens to him, right? But on the other side, you end up having a community of people, colored people within South Africa, who have felt that they've been disenfranchised, purposefully hurt by the system of South Africa. And it's somewhat a thing of like, look, you see how they're taking down a fellow colored guy of ours, a fellow member of our community. Thereby, this entire system is bad. And sort of begin to push people into the fringes.
The colored people have faced a 400-year genocide since Van Riebeeck got off that boat. And in 1995, the ANC decided to extend it by another 30 years. Today, you speak to me about my heritage. Acknowledge my heritage, man. Acknowledge the fact that my people are dying because of a lack of opportunity, and it's systemic. A handful of coloreds in council, a handful of coloreds in parliament, a handful of colored ministers. That does not do anything for my people. It is the biggest day of the year. Chief, I understand that you think it's funny, but I also understand you don't understand that you're stupid. My people are dying and you think it's a joke.
On a point of order. Honorable Adams, please take your seat for a moment.
And you sort of have the situation we have mentioned earlier on. He's a complicated person, but how do you also begin to balance that even further? And you're not the first one within South African politics to have a scandal like this. Just sort of wonder why the DA is so quiet, especially when you consider how Helen Zille has had repeated scandals. For example, where she praised colonization and the amazing impacts on South Africa. And even further than that situation, hey, where former South African activist, civil rights activist, Credo Mudwa actually spoke about how her disinformation radically changed his life, where people have been purposefully cancelled. And it's more so a thing of, do people increasingly become radicalized? Or is it more so a situation where people say, okay, I've been cancelled. How can I rebrand and being able to somewhat re-emerge from this situation? And even within South Africa, race is a very touchy, very sensitive issue that there are somewhat taboos but people don't actually speak about where these taboos come from, and actually being able to have a really honest and genuine conversation about these biases. And is it also possible to have meaningful national dialogue right now around this? Is that even possible? Is that dream long gone and a waste of time and a waste of space? And also, you have constantly people such as Helen Ziller who have reinvented themselves after a scandal. Maybe with Gayton McKenzie, just give him a couple of months, maybe a few years, and he'll be fine again. He'll be fine. Of course, he is a former gangster with a heart. I think if you can survive that, you can survive anything, truthfully speaking. Let me be honest, one of the people who I feel are one of the best people in terms of PR. I actually made a video by this, by the way, like a couple months back. Check it out. One of the best people in terms of PR are Helen Ziller, Queen of PR, and Jacob Zuma, King of PR. They're able to take these scandals and somewhat use the fact that there isn't enough meaningful discussion and debate in terms of how to reflect upon them to be able to just spin a situation and move past it. And even now the Gayton McKenzie thing, it's sort of like the anger and frustration, yeah, it's there. But is it genuine? Is it possible to actually achieve meaningful change? Was it more so just like another byline in the news media where it's just sort of like, oop, he said that. Oh well, let's just move on. Coming back to the original question, which is, should the PA be removed from the GNU government, the National Government of Unity? It's very interesting already when you consider how the GNU is already struggling with a lot of tensions from parties like the DA, and also Action SA has also referred Gayton McKenzie to the South African Human Rights Commission. Even the ATM party is also requesting the removal of the PA from the government of GNU. So there are these high feelings and high emotions. However, the GNU is already in a very precarious situation. Can this government afford to lose another coalition partner? And if they were to do so, who would be the next replacement? Maybe the parties that are encouraging the PA to be referred to the South African Human Rights Commission, or even the parties that are also trying to mandate the removal of the PA from this GNU. Those are some thoughts. Let me know what you think. These are some perspectives I've seen, but let me know what you think. And it is a very interesting situation also when you consider how Liam Jacobs, a young man who had left the DA and moved towards the PA to try and achieve more meaningful change. Can he really do this within an organization where the leader has made such statements? And as they say, the organization often rots from the head. The fish often rots from the head. So let me know what your thoughts are. So yeah, let me know what your thoughts are about this. Wherever you land, are you on the one side or on the other side? And while you're here, I encourage you to join the Other Side community where we get to debate, share discussions, and share different opinions. And actually, while you're here, moving forward, I'm going to read one or two comments from the previous video. And actually, I'm going to read one of the top comments from my last video, the public health debate, South Africans versus foreigners. Check it out. And in this video, one of the top comments I received was by Helen Nyembe 2369. And this person states, "No need to stress about this matter anymore. The Zimbabwean government said it straight. He has medications, but he won't send it to the ones in South Africa. The ones in SA, they must have their health insurance because they are here because they want to be here in South Africa. Simple. Can Zimbabweans stop the drama and go back to Zimbabwe?" And this is a video about the ongoing situation where South Africans are removing foreign nationals from public health facilities, as is mandated by jurisprudence, and also the current position within South Africa in relation to human rights. And with this comment, right, it's so tricky. Like, on the other hand, right, you have people who are genuinely escaping the situation within their governments, not just from Zimbabwe, who are genuinely hurting and are trying to find meaningful health care and trying to meaningfully save their lives from different conditions, from diabetes, asthma, HIV, etc. And somewhat South Africa has become a haven for these people. But at the same time, we're broke. We don't have money here in South Africa. We are broke. We have no money. at the same time, it's very difficult to really support our own South Africans. And at the same time, as Premier Panyaza Lusufi also mentioned, how to support people who are unaccounted for within South Africa. It's very tough. It's very tricky. And at the same time, many South Africans just don't feel heard, as if other people are being prioritized instead of the people who are meaningfully trying to build and restore our beautiful country that is South Africa. So it is a very tricky one, and at the same time quite shocking, very shocking, that as a government, you literally will say that you will just leave the people who leave because they don't want to be here and they should just somewhat fend for themselves. Sort of makes you question, like, what are the duties that a state has to its own people, in the same way that citizens of that country have duties to their government. I don't know. It's very, very interesting. And another interesting comment that I did receive, I will put it up here now. Somebody mentioned about the NHI. How does it also tie into everything, like with the enforcement of the NHI, in terms of, like, because we somewhat have public healthcare that everyone is able to access, how does it also translate for the NHI, and how does it also impact that? Is everyone issued an NHI card, the implementation aspect of that? And I think this is some really good questions. And honestly, the growing community of the other side is so amazing. People write these meaningful dissertations, deep, like very deep introspective thoughts and very deep introspective experiences that many people are having. So I encourage you to keep the comments up. I read them. They're very compelling. Even the ones that are on the other side, negative, say, no, I don't agree with this. Or maybe other people on the other side who say, yeah, I agree. Or people who pave a different way. That's okay. This is a platform for debate, discussion, and honestly having a no-nonsense conversation that doesn't feel like it's being filtered through the lens of mainstream media, and actual conversations that people are genuinely having in their day-to-day life. So if you enjoy that, don't forget to subscribe. Join the other side. Come along. Be with us over here on the other side. It's fun. We get to chat. We get to talk. And most of all, we get to share ideas. So I'll see you next time. Bye.